Confronted my difficult coworker in front of the boss with its help. Now my boss and the office are panicking I'm leaving. So I've been at my new job for slightly less than 1 month. It's been extremely stressful trying to get the hang of things, but luckily, 2 of the 3 people in my department, one of which is my boss, have been extremely understanding and patient. They've both said that they expect it to take at least 6 months before I start getting the hang of things. They told me that they, and my third coworker, will handle the bulk of my responsibilities for these first few months because it would be too much for me to handle at once. My third coworker, who I'll call Alexis, hasn't seemed quite as understanding. While she's told me that she's glad I'm here, I get the feeling that she expects me to know everything perfectly. Ever since my first day, she'll come into my office and ask me extremely vague questions like, "Did you do the thing for the thing?" And expect me to know exactly what she's talking about. The other day, I even overheard her telling our boss that she asked me to upload some document into our database, but that I never did, but she'd told me earlier that day that she would be the one to do this. My boss didn't really seem to care, but Alexis saying that left a bad taste in my mouth. Today, I was trying to complete some report for the first time. Alexis must have seen me struggling with it, because she told me that I could watch her do it so that I would know what to do next time. I took her up on her offer, and she told me that she would call me into her office when she was ready to train me. When she did call me into her office about an hour later, it was evident that she wasn't completely ready for me. For about 10 minutes, she did nothing but rapidly click through her emails, most of which had already been opened, and mutter things like, "Who is this from?" And, "What am I doing with this again?" She did end up apologizing to me for making me wait, but said that she's been so busy lately doing my job. I admit that I may be looking into this too much, but to me, it felt like she was trying to make me feel guilty for not being able to do everything right now. When she finally got around to the report, she couldn't do it. She took one look at the database we used to complete it, and said that it wasn't working because I must have messed it up. I admit that I was working with it earlier in the day, but I didn't think I'd done anything to mess it up. I said I'd figure it out and left her office, but I guess I couldn't quite hide the annoyance on my face because she ended up coming into my office a few minutes later and said that it wasn't a big deal, and that I didn't have to look so annoyed. I'm wondering now if I'm TA because at the end of the day, Alexis had been doing a lot of my work on top of hers. I don't want to start off on the wrong foot with her, especially if there's only 4 of us in this entire department. Sorry for the incoming walls of text. I started a new job 1 month ago. The work itself is fine, though there's pretty much been no training. The person who previously held my position was fired, and nobody in the department, of which there are 4 people, including me, knows how to do this job, so the company asked someone who'd retired from this position 2 years ago to come into the office for a few hours each week to show me the ropes. Problem is, this person doesn't remember anything, and I got only about 2 days worth of training from her. She stopped coming into the office a few weeks ago because she wants to focus on her retirement and hobbies. 2 people in my department, one of which is my boss, have been pretty understanding. They've both told me that they expect it to take at least 6 months for me to fully know what I'm doing, and that they understand there's basically no training for me. The third coworker, who I'll call Alexis, has not been so understanding. She seems mad and frustrated all the time because I don't know what I'm doing yet, and I keep making mistakes. I've stopped coming to her for help because every time I've asked a question, she'll get all huffy and say that she already told me how to do something, even if she hasn't. Every time I've made a mistake, she goes right to our boss to tell on me. I guess he himself got sick of Alexis tattling, because yesterday, I overheard him telling Alexis that I'm new, and that she should be nicer to me. But I've also overheard Alexis going to other coworkers who aren't even in our department, and telling them that I don't know what I'm doing, or that I don't do anything all day, which isn't true. I've been desperately trying to make sense of this job through the few notes I have. Today, Alexis and I were communicating via email about a report I had to submit. I submitted the report, and an hour later, Alexis sent a new email, with our boss CC'd, saying that I didn't do it correctly, and now IT would have to get involved to show me how to fix it. But when I got in touch with our IT guy, he took one look at the report and said I did it right, and that Alexis just doesn't know how to view reports correctly. I sent a response email to Alexis, with our boss still CC'd, explaining that per our IT guy, the report was submitted correctly. Alexis then stormed into my office and said that I must have fixed the report and not told anyone, because it was definitely wrong when she looked at it. I said this wasn't the case, and that she could call our IT guy if she so wished. She did, and I could hear her in her office saying, "But, my name, fixed it, right?" She must have fixed it, because I swear I looked at it right. I guess he didn't tell her what she wanted to hear, because she then called 2 more coworkers to ask if they were the ones to fix the report. She really went through all of that effort instead of just admitting that she's the one who made a mistake. We're now a few hours past this incident, and Alexis hasn't said one word to me. Our boss hasn't said anything about it to me either, and I don't think he even cares about it. But this job has been stressful enough without Alexis breathing down my back, and I'm considering whether or not I should leave. Would you start looking for a new job? Or am I being too sensitive? I've been at this job for 4 months. I really like the work. The problem is that I've always been very quiet and reserved, and my boss takes issue with that. He's not outright hostile towards me, but he's said more than once that I need to put myself out there more, and that he'll be my best friend if I'll let him. He said that I am doing the work that's required of me, but that he wants me to work on us. My department is only comprised of 4 people, including my boss and I. Every so often, my boss and another coworker will go out for lunch, and they'll usually invite me. I will admit that I never accept. I like to eat lunch by myself, and the one time I did go out to eat with them, they talked about things that made me uncomfortable. Not gonna go into specifics, but think politics. This was kind of an issue at my last job, too. I kept to myself and just did my work, though I was friendly to my coworkers whenever they asked me for something. I later found out that I was being referred to as the bitch simply because I didn't talk a lot. I just wish I was critiqued just on my work and not on how outgoing I am. But the fact that this is a recurring issue makes me feel that I'm the problem here. I betcha you show up on time and do your work and possibly do more than what's asked of you. I thought the same way too. I'm friendly at work, but keep to myself. People complained about me, usually the ones who don't work, not the social butterflies. They can work and socialize. The ones that complained wouldn't do any work. They thought I was stuck up and would spread so many rumors about me, until management got fed up and fired me. Can you imagine that? Fired me. They do want us to get along, on their terms, like it or not. And it's not that I don't get along with others, quite well I might add, but in my world there's a time and place for socializing, and work isn't the place to do it. Sadly, the workplace is like high school. You'll be singled out every time for being yourself. Hang in there, op. I realized pretty quickly after starting here that I wouldn't really like it here for various reasons, but I figured I'd stick it out for as long as I could. My boss is the we're a family here type, and as someone who's generally more introverted like me, this has been a recurring point of contention between us. For the sake of this post, I'll call him Kevin. Kevin keeps telling me to get out of my shell more, and that I should be telling him everything. For example, once, we were both CC'd on an email, and he got mad at me because I didn't get up from my desk, walk to his office, and inform him that he was CC'd on the email. I have tried to talk to him about work-related tasks as much as I can, even if it's completely asinine, but this isn't enough for him. Recently, we started working with a longtime neighbor of mine, who also happens to be my older brother's best friend. We'll call this neighbor Dan. During a meeting between just Kevin and Dan, Dan mentioned very casually that he knew me. When Kevin talked to me about it, he kept saying things like, "Looks like you got a boyfriend," or, "I think Dan likes you." I had to clarify that no, Dan doesn't like me like that, and that he's practically a brother to me because he's been my older brother's best friend for years. Anyways, today was my 90-day review, and Kevin told me for the 100th time that I need to get out of my shell more, and that I should have told him I have an older brother. How this information is pertinent to my job, I've no idea. Anyways, my employee review was mostly 1s and 2s out of a scale of 4, even though I learned this job very quickly without any training, have shown up to work early and often leave late, and consistently completed all my tasks perfectly. Yes, I am looking for a new job. I feel like I'm at my wit's end. I've been applying to jobs since October. Thankfully, I'm starting to get some calls back, but of course, I don't actually have a new job lined up, and I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. I'm looking to leave my job of 1 year for a variety of reasons, but mostly because I can't stand my boss. He is, without a doubt, the worst boss I've ever had. Some of the things he has done that tick me off are: introduce himself as an alpha male to everyone he meets, complain to me that his holiday bonus was only $10,000 while approving mine for $200, ask me if anyone's ever given me a hickey, and giving me the worst employee review I've ever gotten because I don't talk about my personal life enough to him. When we bid on projects or contracts, he always makes sure to end our bid price with 69 cents, because he has the emotional intelligence of a 12-year-old and thinks 69 is a hilarious number. Most recently, he gathered all 3 of my other coworkers in his office to talk shit about me, and say that I don't know what I'm doing, or that I don't actually do anything. I could hear everything he was saying because his office is a grand total of 5 feet away from mine. Side note, nobody here knows how to do my job. The woman who trained me for my first week was a former employee who's retired years ago and didn't remember anything. So I was basically thrown in the deep end without any guidance whatsoever. My coworkers all hate him, too, but because he's the boss, they all agree with him when he badmouths me. I just feel like I can't take this anymore. I've been applying to new jobs since October, and although I don't have one lined up yet, I'm at the point where I no longer care if I get fired from my current job. I'm leaving because of my toxic, narcissistic asshole of a boss. For reference, I'm 28F, and he's 40SM. I have heard him promise the world to other employees, only to call them stupid or pathetic as soon as they're out of hearing range. And I know he does the same with me. In fact, a few weeks ago, he gathered all my coworkers in his office just to talk about how I'm stupid, lazy, and don't know what I'm doing. To be fair, I don't, but only because there was no training, and nobody else here knows how to do my job. Especially him. Other things my boss has done is: 1. Yell at me in front of my coworkers because I didn't let him know when he was CC'd on an email. 2. You gave me the harshest critique simply because I don't share enough about my personal life with you. Despite this negative review, you still approved my $200 holiday bonus, but then complained that your own bonus was just $10,000. You hugged me even after I said I don't like hugs, told me I need to smile more, and awkwardly asked if anyone ever gave me a hickey. I reported this to HR, but nothing changed. You also encouraged my coworkers to watch me closely. One of them, who I thought I could trust, would always come to me and talk about how much he hated our boss, and as soon as I said anything in agreement, he would run to our boss and tattle on me. This coworker also reports to my boss everything I say. The other day, I was talking on my phone, telling my friend that I wished my boss and coworkers didn't gossip about me so much. Well, my coworker heard this and immediately told my boss. For most of the year I've been working here, I just tried to stay positive and try my best to get through this. But no more. I don't smile at all, even when my boss tells me to. I respond to everything with one-word answers. He keeps asking me what's wrong, and I only say nothing. Now the department is gossiping about me more, but they're in a panic. They keep asking each other if they think I'm leaving, and if so, they will not be doing my job, which is funny, because I've heard them say, in the past, that I don't do anything. My boss now has been talking loudly from his office, saying things like, "My name is such a good employee." He's been complimenting me on finishing tasks he's never complimented me on before. He keeps telling me he likes my hair. And one day, he sat down in my office and told me point blank that I'm not allowed to leave. Someone in a different department told me that he's terrified I'm going to leave. Well, fuck him, because I am. This week, I'm supposed to hear back from several places I've been interviewing with, so wish me luck. Update 1. I didn't realize that there were so many people who had gone through, or were currently going through, a similar situation. In the few days since I originally posted, my boss only became more obnoxious. He said loudly to another coworker that I'm super smart. He also proudly ran to my office to tell me that he'd just done something that's usually my job just to help me out, even though I would have just done it myself if he'd asked me to, but he didn't. Also, in the past, he would get mad at me if I arrived or left the office without properly greeting/saying goodbye to him. I stopped doing that for about 2 weeks, but he never said anything to me about it like he usually did. The one coworker I kind of trust told me that after I went home one day, our boss sat down at his desk, looking like he was feeling sorry for himself, and said, "My name is completely checked out, but I don't know what to do." He also made a big stink about my birthday. My birthday is at the end of this month. Our receptionist always posts a monthly birthday list in the kitchen showing the names and birth dates of everyone who had a birthday that month. She got my birthday wrong, which I honestly did not give a shit about, but my boss made it into such a big deal that she came into my office to apologize. I had no idea what she was talking about until she said that my boss had been upset that she'd gotten my birthday wrong and told her to fix it ASAP. He also came into my office and said that he'd marked the date on his personal calendar and was acting all excited about it, even as I just stared at him with a blank expression. Honestly, I've wondered why he's so desperate to keep me here, especially since he's said on numerous occasions that I don't know what I'm doing. But honestly, I think he gets off on ordering others around and telling people what they did wrong, and enjoys having been able to shout my name from his office and have me running over to him like an obedient little lapdog. Last week, I did hear back from one of the jobs I've been interviewing with, but they told me they didn't have any definite answers for me and asked that I wait until Monday, which is today, at the latest. Even though I still didn't have an offer, on Thursday, I packed up all my shit and deleted all my browsing history while my boss had stepped out of the office. We work in contracting/construction, so he sometimes leaves the office to go out to the field. Then I sat at my desk, arranged some of our job folders on it so that it didn't look too bare, and mostly played solitaire for the rest of the day. He did come back, but he didn't notice anything, and the day progressed as usual. But the next day, on Friday, I didn't feel like coming in, so I called out sick. My coworker said that he came into my office and did notice that all my stuff was gone, and apparently flew into a panic. He thought I wasn't coming in on Monday, today, but I did. I wanted to just ghost him when I finally got an offer, but I didn't get the opportunity to. When I came in this morning, he immediately came to talk to me. He told me that he knows I'm unhappy, and asked me what's wrong. I just kept saying, nothing. Even so, he asked me what he can do to make me happy, push back my start time in the morning, give me a raise? I said no to both of those. He then said that he knows I'm on my way out, and asked if I could stay until he found a replacement. I probably should have accepted a raise until I got an offer, but the thought of staying here for a day longer was honestly unimaginable. So I kinda just blurted out, "I'll stay until the end of today." He looked shocked by that. After a few seconds, he asked if I could make a list of everything that's on my plate. I said sure, but I'm not going to do that. Before he left my office, he kept asking me if there was anything he did wrong. When I said nothing, he said that he wanted to know so that he could change for the better. All I said was, I don't think anything's ever going to change here. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of telling him, "Oh, well, here's why I think you're an asshole," because he would have denied it. Also, he has a group of yes men surrounding him at all times who stoke his ego, and they would have told him that I'm the one in the wrong. He stepped out again to go out to the field, and I went and spoke with our HR rep. All I told her was, "Look, I don't expect anything to be done about this, but I just want you to know that my boss is the reason I'm leaving." To my surprise, she did take it seriously and asked me to elaborate. They did just hire a new director in the HR department, so maybe that's why she decided to take me seriously? Either way, I laid everything out for her. I told her that my boss doesn't respect me. I told her that I get that gossip is a part of every office, but I draw the line when I hear my boss talking shit about me to all my coworkers. I also told her that I feel like I'm being spied on by the office snitch, and that I can hear him reporting everything I say and do to my boss. She asked me if I had another job lined up, and I said no. The HR rep said that she would be talking about this to our CEO later this week. Whether or not she actually will, I've no idea, but I'm just glad I'm done. Well, word quickly spread around here that I'm leaving, and a coworker who I barely know, she works on another floor in a different department, came up to talk to me. She asked me if I'm leaving because of my boss, and I said yes. She said that he's the reason she transferred to another department. Apparently, she used to work directly for him. But one day, while he was out of the office, she called her husband briefly from her office phone right before she left for a work conference. She doesn't know if the phone was bugged, or if my boss had access to her calls, but apparently, he found out about this call and freaked out because he didn't recognize the number she was calling. So at 4 a.m., he made one of his superintendents swing by the office building after he was done with work, our crews pave until around 4/5 am, go into her office, and look at her call history. The superintendent did this, but accidentally hit call on my coworker's husband's number. So the husband received a call from his wife's workplace at 4 a.m. and freaked out, because he'd rightly thought something bad had happened to his wife. He ended up calling his wife's cell repeatedly until she picked up. She contacted our IT guy, who was able to see from the office cameras that it was our superintendent that came into the office, and when he was confronted about this, he told them everything. Even then, my boss denied that he ever made our superintendent do this. So, yeah. The dude's crazy, and I'm glad I'm out. The day's still young, so I'm still hoping I hear back from my prospective new job today. Update 2, I don't even know where to begin with the past week. If you'd told me a month ago that my last days at my old job would play out like a real-life workplace soap opera, I wouldn't have believed you. But here we are. Let's start with the day I finally walked out. I turned in my keycard and sat down at my desk to draft an email, pro forma, polite, as much as I could muster. Before I could even hit send, the receptionist came in to say my boss, Kevin, with his alpha male chest thumping and fragile ego, wanted to see me in his office. The sudden HR conversation apparently set off DEFCON 1. There were 3 people in there when I arrived, Kevin, HR, and, awkward as hell, Alexis. I knew this was going to be a circus. Let's just talk through what's going on, the HR lady started, totally playing mediator while Kevin swiveled back and forth, jaw set, and Alexis kept her face carefully blank. Here's the wild part, apparently, Alexis had gone to HR just that morning and handed in her own resignation, out of nowhere. I hadn't even spoken to her since I'd announced my departure, and honestly, I was so checked out I hadn't even noticed anything seemed different. But now, with HR and Kevin in the room, Alexis admitted she felt completely unsupported and burnt out, and that Kevin's management set us all up to fail. My mouth nearly hit the carpet. For months, this woman had made my workday a living hell, and now she was, in her own way, saying all the things I'd been screaming into the void about. Kevin looked murderous. I don't think he expected all the anti-him cards to get played at once, which probably explains what happened next. He took a deep, shuddery breath and said, well, clearly this is an issue of attitude and fit. If you're both so unhappy working in our family, it may be best you both go. Oh, the drama. I half expected a camera crew to jump out from behind the file cabinets. HR managed to get him calmed down, and the meeting wrapped up mostly with logistics, but I could tell everything was completely shaken. Fun fact, Alexis left that day, too. 2 people out of a department of 4. If you'd like to imagine the look on Kevin's face as we packed our things at the same time, I encourage you to do so. That image will fuel me for years. I just stared at him. Nothing Kevin did could surprise me anymore, but this crossed some line between professional, creepy, and bizarrely childish. Dan said he'd told Kevin flat out that if he was that worried about losing his staff, maybe he should actually, treat them like people. Bless Dan. So, I left, Alexis left, and the department went from 4 to 2. I went home with a bottle of cheap champagne and the most surreal sense of relief. The part of me that had spent a year gritting my teeth was suddenly, blessedly, silent. But here's where it gets almost too ironic. The next morning, I got a LinkedIn message from, you guessed it, one of my old bosses, not Kevin, thank God, but the understanding one. They asked if I'd be willing to teach a short Zoom training session for the new person Kevin was frantically trying to hire, since no one else knows how the job actually works. The message included a hilarious apology for everything I'd been through, and, here's the kicker, a $500 Amazon gift card regardless of whether or not you help, because you deserve it. I can't make this up. I won't lie, the pettiness was tempting. For a solid day, I debated accepting the gig just to see Kevin sweat as the only person in the universe who knew how his department functioned smiled at him through the screen. But I said no. I told them to ask Alexis. She, after all, was his loyal soldier until she wasn't. Maybe she could explain what the thing for the thing was better than I ever could. A few days have passed. I did hear back from one of the positions I'd been interviewing for. They offered me the job. It pays better, the office is 10 minutes from my apartment, and the entire onboarding so far has consisted of meeting people who seem genuinely happy to be alive. I don't want to jinx it, but it's enough to make my cynical, burnt out heart feel stupidly optimistic. As for Kevin, I started getting text messages from an unknown number. Things like, "Hope you are thriving out there, really wish we could have made it work," and "Don't be a stranger, you're always welcome in our family." All with the forced, desperate enthusiasm of someone watching their ship go down. At first I ignored them, but then, last night, I got this: "Hey, my name, just wanted to check in, hope work is good, but, honestly, if you're ever interested, there's a management position opening here soon. Think about it." Reader, I cackled so hard I dropped my phone. To everyone who ever doubted themselves at work, felt like they were the problem for not wanting to be a family, or wondered if it's worth it to bail from a toxic team, let this be your sign. It is. And sometimes, the people making you miserable will wind up even messier than you imagined, because, let's be honest, they're the ones requiring the family in the first place. I'm not going back. And if anyone wants to bid on a job that ends in 69 cents, you'll have to do it without me. Update 3. I thought quitting would be the end, but I now believe some offices are just cursed and those curses echo long after you've left the building. I have a front row seat to the fallout, and my new job is so refreshingly normal that it all feels absurd, like catching headlines about a reality show you once starred in but now just binge watch for the drama. Here's everything that's happened since the great exodus. First, Alexis. Within 72 hours of us both leaving, she started blowing up my DMs with a mix of apologies and revelations. Apparently, her sudden honesty at the HR intervention ignited a new persona. She wanted to clear the air and apologize for everything. There was a bombardment of lengthy messages about the pressure she felt from Kevin daily, her increasingly desperate job hunt, she'd quit with nothing lined up, and, hilariously, a sheepish confession that she was the one who messed up the infamous report, not me. She admitted her guilt had been eating her alive. I felt a petty satisfaction, not going to lie, but Alexis didn't just want forgiveness. She wanted help. She asked if I'd look over her new resume. I did, because whatever else she was, this was clearly a person at rock bottom. Her desperation was palpable. "Do you know if they're hiring at your new place? Any leads at all?" I told her I'd keep an ear out and wished her well, but this is where things got almost cinematic. Alexis wrote back that she'd scheduled an exit interview with the new HR director, and planned to tell her everything. I didn't expect anything to come of it, honestly. Then, from several old coworkers in the days after we left, absolute chaos at the office. Kevin tried to run the empty department by himself for a week, commandeering people from accounts, operations, even the receptionist. She knows Excel, she can handle proposals, to do things like approve invoices and upload union wage data nobody had ever touched. At least 2 people accidentally deleted major project folders. Kevin kept getting locked out of the database. The CEO himself apparently stopped by, looked like he'd bitten into a lemon, and asked Kevin, "How exactly did you prepare for staffing changes?" I wish I had a secret camera in those meetings. The next Monday, I get a text from, fake name, Dan, my older brother's best friend, now newly promoted, it turns out, to interim project manager. He filled me in. Kevin was, according to Dan, drowning. He was snapping at everyone, demanding 6:30 a.m. team building calls where he basically read aloud everyone's calendar invites and tried to assign out work he didn't understand. At one point, he called Dan into his office and asked if he or someone close to op could convince me to return in a consulting capacity. For the record, the offer was $25 per hour, no benefits, and a desk of your choosing. A desk of my choosing. Unclear if that included a panic room. Then things took a turn. HR, mobilized, I think, in direct response to my and Alexis's exit interviews, started calling in current staff, asking pointed questions about Kevin's leadership style. The CEO called a whole company Zoom, which Dan described as the most awkward Zoom ever shot on webcam, to announce an independent review of the department. A formal investigation. At least 2 more people from different departments put in for transfers. Suddenly, I was getting LinkedIn pings from people I barely knew at old company, asking how things are going or whether I'd ever felt unable to bring concerns forward. Translation: everyone was in full Sia mode. The person who previously played off a snitch, the one who used to run straight to Kevin after every conversation, sent a message that was basically, "I know things were tense but I hope we can all move past it. No hard feelings." Reader, there are so many hard feelings. Meanwhile, Kevin was losing his grip. He started publicly posting motivational memes on the company team's channel. Teamwork makes the dream work. Accompanied by a stock photo of a fist bump, sometimes at 3 or 4 in the morning. Rumor had it he even attempted to institute an office birthday parade, an actual conga line with party hats and a Bluetooth speaker, for the receptionist's birthday, but only 3 people joined in, and 2 were visibly horrified in turns. There is phone video. Then, the wildest update, I got a call out of nowhere, blocked number, of course, which I let go to voicemail. It was Kevin. The message started chipper, "Hey, hope you're loving the new gig," then swerved hard into a guilt trip about how much your departure hurt morale, and closed on a note of extraordinary pettiness. "I just want you to know, for the record, the company holiday party next month wouldn't have been your kind of thing anyway. Honestly, I paused the message and wrote that down, because it might be the single most Kevin thing ever said. A few days after, my new boss, who is an actual adult human, pulled me aside to ask if I'd be willing to talk to some publishing trade writer doing a piece about workplace red flags and company culture. Turns out, Alexis had gone scorched earth in her exit interview, and the HR director is clean sweeping everything. But the word's gotten out, and apparently this company's Glassdoor is blowing up with newly detailed 1-star reviews. One of my reviews is in there, and if you read between the lines, if you value privacy and sanity, consider other options, you'll know it's me. And the cherry on top? The last I heard, Kevin is being reassigned, sidelined, while the company figures out what to do with the department. Dan, somehow, has survived and told me, if you ever want to freelance, at a safe distance, let me know. But run the other way if anyone tells you it's like a family again. I agreed. So, that's the latest. Toxic bosses can implode in spectacular fashion, karma does occasionally boomerang, and sometimes the only way to win is to walk away and watch the building catch fire from across the street, preferably while sipping something nice and scheduling interviews for dev jobs that don't require family loyalty oaths. If any newly escaped introverts are reading, you're not too sensitive, or weird, or not a team player. Sometimes you just see the fire before everyone else smells the smoke. And now I finally work somewhere that treats lunch breaks like breaks, not reunions. Honestly, I almost don't know what to do with the peace and quiet, but it's the best kind of problem.